Welcome to this fifth video in my 5-part mini-series to introduce my channel. In the first few videos, we looked at what inner balance is, what feminine energy is, and what masculine energy is. And in the fourth video, we looked at why this may be the most important life skill for this time in our history. But none of that really matters unless it actually changes your life. So in this video, I'd like to do two things. I'd like to show you the breadth of what inner balance can cover and how it can help you in these myriad ways. And I would like to show you the depth by showing you just one example in one of those areas using the model as a support. And the area is relationships. So let's start with the breadth of what inner balance can help us with. Inner balance touches on everything from how we relate to ourselves, to our relationship with others, to the way that we show up in the world, in our work, and in the things that we create in the world. It also shows up in our spiritual journey and our purpose as spiritual beings. And then it shows up in every system that we create and live by in the world. Everything from our political systems, government, healthcare, education, the environment, our legal systems, technology, including AI. All of that is not only determined by our collective inner balance, but it is very clear to see the stage we're in when we look at those systems. In a balanced world, we would be creating systems that reflect a balance between benefits to the individual and that of society, where the system as a whole is sustainable, where we no longer have the massive imbalances that we see today between the connected few and the rest of the population. And that will be covered in future videos, but for now I'm going to just mention those systems. So let's just circle back to those personal benefits that we receive when we have inner balance. So if you consider your relationship with yourself, it's everything from how well you know yourself, how connected you feel to yourself, your strengths, what patterns do you have that maybe came from childhood that recur in your life, and how much have you worked with them and yet also unconditionally accepted yourself. Those are the kinds of things that I'm talking about. Do you like yourself? Do you love yourself? Does that get reflected in your habits and in your actions in the world? So when you become more balanced, you'll find that you no longer second guess yourself quite so much. You don't wonder, am I on the right track? Is this the right path for me? You've already connected with yourself and the guidance that you will have received to know at least which direction to go into. But it starts with that self-awareness. Inner balance also reshapes how we relate to others. So this is everything from your romantic relationship to how you relate to the teams in your work environment, and if you run a company, how you relate to your employees. So instead of having relationships feel unstable and feel like you're having to walk on eggshells, you find that your relationships start to feel more stable, and they have a quality about them that's more of a win-win outcome. It's not one at the expense of the other, but it's a kind of a let's see how we can both win. It also transforms how you show up in the world. So in the workplace, in leadership positions, when you're under pressure, instead of resorting to old patterns and possibly pushing through to get something done or acting in some way that's really just unsustainable for yourself or others, through inner balance, you learn to act in a way that's aligned with your personal values and at a time that also feels right. Another example is creating a healthy life-work balance. So the thing with that is we don't create a life-work balance by having that be another thing on our to-do list. You know, life-work balance is an outcome of inner balance. I hope that makes sense. We'll be talking about that soon in a future episode. Inner balance also extends into our spiritual development. And I don't mean religion in any particular form. I mean this as our own individual relationship with a higher power, something greater than ourselves. For those on a path to higher consciousness, this is an invaluable tool that you can use to boost that journey. This is where the concept of 5D consciousness comes in. I believe that inner balance is not only a tool to get to that higher consciousness, it is a defining quality of that consciousness. And now I would like to go into an example to show you the depth of how inner balance can be understood using the model as a support. In the previous video, we explored power. Now, in this video, we're exploring relationships, and relationships are one example of where power becomes very visible. Most relationships are not about the other person. They're about the quadrant that each person operates from. If we look at the lower half of the model, this is where we are highly conditioned. We're conditioned into roles, into a certain sense of ourselves, what we're supposed to be like, act like, think like, etc. So let's take the bottom left now. On the one side, in the immature feminine, we might see patterns like wanting to be in relationship at all costs. So that can look like giving power away, seeking approval, becoming overly accommodating, even servile. And in that quadrant, it's very easy to lose oneself in the relationship, in the giving of it, in the wanting of it to work. On the other side, in the immature masculine, we might see a tendency to want to have power over. So the tendency to control, to have self-serving behavior, because there the focus is on me. It is my power, my status, my security. And what's interesting is that these patterns in the lower half of the model often find each other. And they do because they're opposite sides of the same coin. The one gives power away, the other one takes power. The one seeks approval, the other one dominates. One avoids conflict or does everything they can to avoid conflict, the other uses it for their own perceived benefit. Now, one thing I'd like to add is that although these patterns are often associated with traditional male-female roles, they exist in all of us. We're actually all over the model until we learn to evolve out of our conditioning, first of all, and our subconscious patterns, which we carry with us and which sometimes can take a lot of effort to become aware of, so that we can heal ourselves out of those patterns and beliefs and assumptions about the world. Now, as we begin to move to the mature aspects of the model, something begins to change quite drastically. On the feminine side, there's still empathy, there's still care, There's still an appreciation for relationship, but now it comes from a strong sense of self, from inner sovereignty. And on the masculine side, there's still action, structure, and there's still analysis, but now it becomes supportive of the relationship and of the partner. So instead of power over, it becomes power with. There's an appreciation that the partner has their own power, even if their power may look different. That partner is a sovereign entity unto him or herself. And so the relationship is now a partnership of two whole people. And that's where the balance comes in. Each person no longer needs the other to complete them. Each person is full and complete. Remember, each person occupies the top left and the top right at the same time. The top half of this model is men and women who are balanced in themselves. I've been through it myself. I've been in every quadrant that there is. I've experienced the pain of being in the lower half and in each quadrant. But I worked on myself a lot. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but it's definitely a whole different situation. And I'll leave it for a future video, but I can tell you now, relationships are completely different from that perspective, and far more fun and far more delightful. You just have so many ways in which you relate and can connect with each other, can share projects and build on each other's understanding. It's like a creative space. You're creating rather than coping. And that is a great way to discern the difference between operating on the top half of the model and the bottom half. It makes the world of difference. The reason why I feel it works so well to be balanced is that we have our own built-in system of checks and balances. So if our original way of being was highly assertive and tending to dominate, we have our own system of checks, which would enable us to stop in time and recalibrate and perhaps offer a different response to something. And if our tendency was to be on the reticent side, lacking in self-confidence to stand up for oneself, being balanced, you step into your assertiveness when needed. Being in the bottom half of the model is like having one tool with which to handle life. And we've all heard of that phrase, if all you have is a hammer, then everything in the world begins to look like a nail. So that's exactly an illustration of what happens when we're stuck in the bottom right. Being balanced means you're no longer somebody with one tool in the toolkit. You now have a wide variety, in fact, of tools to use in the moment as needed. What we've just seen in relationships can be applied in every area that we spoke about earlier. Self-esteem works the same way. Leadership works the same way. Purpose, daily life, even the systems that we create. In conclusion to this introductory series, being balanced, saying yes to opening up to the wholeness of who you are, is in my mind the single most important shift that you can make in your life. You're going to actually transcend the gender binary that we've all been conditioned with. And you're going to empower yourself to be the greatest expression of your unique self that is possible in your lifetime. And if the whole world made this same decision, this, I believe, would truly bring the world into a new age. It would be the new era that we're all looking forward to. And yes, it will take some undoing of the old and a lot of conflict potentially, and a lot of polarity between those who want to take us backwards or hold on to the past and those of us who want to move forward into a higher expression of ourselves, individually and as humanity. So there will be that phase that we have to go through, but equipping yourself with your inner balance is the best thing you can possibly do for yourself to move into that new vision of what the world can be and truly what it is. And it just needs to be uncovered. So this brings us to the end of this Start Here series. I really hope you've enjoyed it. What I have in mind going forward, as I now will transition into my core video series, is to dive into pertinent topics that are of interest in today's world. These may be longer than the introductory videos because they all tend to go deeper and really provide insight into situations that we're all dealing with. If you've enjoyed this series, I encourage you to keep watching and to like and subscribe to this channel so that you can be informed of future videos when they become available, and you can support my work so that I can bring out more of these videos. What I'd like to ask you to do in the comments is to let me know what interests you. I often hear that people want to know, how do we become balanced? And so in each video, as I delve into a particular topic and really uncover it with the help of the model to illustrate it, I will always be providing helpful, practical tips that you can use to become more balanced and to empower yourself. It's been a pleasure. This is a very deep calling for me, and I'm going to continue making these videos. So please share this with anybody that you think will be interested, and let's grow this channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.